Hello, my dear students, and welcome back. Chalo bachcho, let's get ready because today we are going to master one of the most important chapters for your exams, India's population. I know, it seems like a huge topic, but trust me, by the end of this, you'll feel like an expert. So let's break it down and make it super simple so you can score full marks.
Right then, let's jump straight in with the biggest number of all. According to the 2011 census, India's population was 1,210 million. Phew. Now, what does that even mean in our terms? It means 121 crore people. Just let that sink in for a moment. 121 crore. It's more people than North America, South America, and Australia put together. It's a massive number, and it affects everything in our country. So how are we going to tackle this giant topic? Simple. We've got a master plan. First, the big picture. Then, we'll understand distribution and density. After that, the 4 phases of growth. Then, a look at our people, rural versus urban, and what they do for work. And finally, the most important part, your exam master plan. Sounds good? Let's go. So, first up, the big picture. We know the number is 121 crore. But, the real question is, where do all these people actually live? Is everyone just spread out evenly all over the country? Let's find out. Just have a look at this map here. You see all those tiny dots? Well, each one of those dots represents 2 lakh people. And you can immediately see, wow, the population is not evenly spread out at all. Look at how jam-packed the northern plains are. Just full of dots. Now compare that to, say, the Northeast or the desert in the West. It's almost empty. This pattern is no accident, and we're about to see why. To give you an even clearer idea, look at this. A huge part of our population lives in just a handful of states. Uttar Pradesh, of course, has the most people, then Maharashtra, Bihar, West Bengal, and Andhra Pradesh. But here's the crazy fact, and this is an important one for your exam. These 5 states, plus just 5 others, are home to 76% of all Indians. Can you believe it? 10 states hold 3/4 of our country's entire population. This whole idea of some places being jam-packed and others being empty brings us to our next topic, distribution and density. Just think of our country like a big train. How come some compartments are totally full, with people spilling out, while other compartments have lots of empty seats? Well, the answer lies in a concept called density.
So what is population density? It's really simple. It's just the number of people who live in 1 square kilometer of area. And for India, the national average, a number you must remember, is 382 people per square kilometer. But please write this number down, highlight it. It's a super important fact.
And this visualizes it perfectly. Look at the map on the left. See that really dark red patch in the north? That's where the density is sky high. In a state like Bihar, it's more than 1,100 people in 1 square kilometer. Now look at a state like Arunachal Pradesh. Just 17 people. From over 1,000 to just 17. What a massive difference, right? And it's all within our own country.
So, why? Why is there such a huge difference? Well, it all comes down to some very basic things. People generally like to live where life is a bit easier. Places with flat land, good soil for farming, plenty of water from rivers, and good roads. That's a perfect description of the northern plains, and that's why they're so crowded. On the other hand, tough mountains, very cold or hot climates, and bad connectivity, well, that naturally means fewer people will live there. It's as simple as that.
Great. So now we know where people live. But how did we even get to 121 crore people to begin with? Well, that brings us to the story of India's population growth, and it's a story we can tell in 4 simple chapters. Let's dive in. Here's the whole story. Phase 1 from 1901 to 1921 was a period of stagnant growth. The population hardly changed because birth rates were high, but death rates were also very high. Then, in Phase 2 from 1921 to 51, we saw steady growth as death rates started to come down. And then, Phase 3, from 1951 to 81, this was the population explosion. Finally, in Phase 4, from 1981 till today, the growth has remained high, but it has started to slow down. And let's talk about that population explosion. This was the time after independence, when our population grew like a rocket. Why? Think about it. Because of better healthcare and food, the death rate fell down really fast. But the birth rate stayed high for a long time. So you have fewer people dying, but lots of babies still being born. This huge gap created that explosive growth. It was only later, in phase 4, that the birth rate also started to fall, which is why things began to slow down. Okay, we've understood the how of our population growth. Now let's look at the character of our population. Basically, do most Indians live in villages or do they live in big cities? This brings us to the classic topic of rural versus urban India. So, have a look at these numbers from 2011. A huge 68.8% of Indians lived in villages. That's almost 70%. It means more than 2 out of every 3 people in our country are from rural areas. But, and this is the important trend, the urban population at about 31% is growing much, much faster. Why? Because people are moving to cities for jobs, for education, for a different life. Okay, so we know where people live. The next obvious question is, what do all these crores of people do for a living? This brings us to the occupational structure of our population, which is basically about who is a worker and what kind of work they do. Now, here's a question for you. This comes up in exams all the time. According to the Indian Census, what is the exact definition of a main worker? Think about it for a second.
And here is the answer. A main worker is a person who works for at least 183 days in a year. That's basically 6 months. If someone works for less than 183 days, they're called a marginal worker. Bachcho, please star mark this in your book. Ye 1 marker mein zarur aa sakta hai. This is a very important definition to remember.
So, what sectors do our main workers work in? Well, this chart shows it all. A massive 54.6% are in the primary sector. That means farming and agriculture. About 41.6% are in the tertiary sector, which is all about services, like banking, transport, and teaching. And a very small part, just 3.8%, are in the secondary sector, which is industry and manufacturing. So the big takeaway, more than half of our workforce is still connected to agriculture.
All right, you've learned all the main concepts of the chapter. Now for the part everyone waits for, your exam master plan. Let's take all this knowledge and figure out how to turn it into marks. Ready? Let's do this.
Let's practice with a real exam-style question. This is a very common 3-mark question. Discuss the spatial pattern of density of population in India. So how do you write a perfect answer to get those full 3 marks?
It's easy. Just follow this simple 3-step formula. Step 1, define. Always start by defining population density and mention the national average of 382. Boom. That's 1 mark right there. Step 2, give examples of high-density areas. Mention states like Bihar and explain why. Fertile soil, good water. Step 3, give examples of low-density areas. Mention Arunachal Pradesh and explain why. Mountains, tough climate. If you write your answer in these 3 parts, you are guaranteed to get full marks. It's a foolproof method.
All right, let's do a super quick, rapid-fire revision. Ready? India's population in 2011, 121 crore. National density, 382 persons per square kilometer. The 4 phases of growth: stagnant, steady, explosion, slowing down. A main worker works for at least 183 days. And the largest workforce is in agriculture. Got all that? Perfect. And before we finish, I want to share a quote from the very first page of your textbook chapter. It says, "The people are a very important component of a country." You know, it's a good reminder that we're not just studying numbers and maps. We are learning about the people who make up our incredible nation. And I'll leave you with one final thought. As our population keeps growing, what do you think is the single biggest challenge our country will face in the future? Is it about creating jobs? Is it about managing our water and other resources? Or something else entirely? Socho iske bare mein. Think about it. All the very best for your exams, my dear students, and I'll see you in the next one.